I wanted to talk to Tim.
How do I follow that?
In your long and colorful career, you have rubbed elbows with oil companies. What was the relationship between industry and Native groups at that time? And what was the feeling? Where were they headed?
Well, like Mike said, I mean, there wasn't any real knowledge of the industry about the Native communities prior to the need to get clear title for the land claims. I know this because I started working for BP as a low-level external affairs person, and they were well-intentioned, but they just didn't know anything about a lot of these issues, and it took a while to educate them. But the pipeline issue really did bring home the need to have a relationship. And one of the things that actually, I'm going to tell a quick story. We invited Tim Wallace from Doyon to come down and be a part of this, and Tim wasn't able to. There was a birthday in his family, and that was more important, and I give him credit for that. But Tim recalls that right about land claims time, early land claims, post-land claims, but 1971, but pre-pipeline, I may be getting the dates mixed up, but Fairbanks Native Association had been promised some contracts by the predecessor organization to Alyeska, which was TAPS. And so Tim was in charge of, he was the business development guy for Fairbanks Native Association, was promised to go out and line up and finalize the contracts, and he never got his phone calls returned. And this went on for several weeks, and then finally, Tim, the Doyon people got angry, and they withdrew their agreement they had made an agreement to withdraw their land claim over the pipeline corridor. This was a historical nuance of the sequence of events that had happened. And I may be getting this a little bit mixed up, but the long and the short of it is that encouraged Stevens Village and other villages to join in and lift their claims, and then to file a lawsuit to stop the award, the BLM from awarding the corridor. And that Stevens Village lawsuit and the court injunction that flowed from that was really what stopped really made the people in the industry wake up to the realization that they had to settle this thing. And of course, as history would happen, that window of time that the pipeline injunction was in effect also gave the environmental community time to organize themselves and file what was to be the first NEPA lawsuit against the pipeline. And that was the thing that really stopped it. After the Stevens Village lawsuit put the initial brakes on, that really put the brakes on until, thanks to Senator Gravel, we got an act through Congress which exempted the pipeline from NEPA several years later. But to make the connection, that kind of woke people up to the need that they had to have a relationship in the industry, a relationship with the rural communities. Part of the Trans-Alaska Pipeline deal was agreements that there would be contracts with the new regional corporations to provide services. One of the early ones was a security contract, and I think NANA was involved in this. There was also some catering contracts that flowed out of that. But where I want to just lead this to is the fact that that web of relationships that was established out of early animosity and kind of real politic, the people realized they had to work together, led to further commercial relationships even after the pipeline was built. Willie Hensley put together catering contracts with BP in 1975. There were other kinds of service contracts. Arctic Slope got involved. There was a drilling company formed that several regional corporations invested money in. Doyon Drilling began first as a joint venture with a drilling company. Eventually, Doyon bought out its partners. Now Doyon Drilling is one of the most successful drilling companies in Alaska that has a good part of the market share. Arctic Slope Energy Services came out of the contracting companies that Arctic Slope formed. I mean, I can go on and on, but there's a whole web of commercial relationships that started that gave the regional corporations a lot of early cash flow and enabled them to invest in other businesses, business experience, and really has helped create a lot of them. Cook Inlet region owns some of the major oil service contractors on the North Slope. I mean, it's become a very important part of our state's economy, and it all started from that. That was the root of it.
Mayor Roderick, once everything got moving and the pipeline was a go-ahead, what happened in Anchorage? I mean, throughout the state there was just this huge explosion of work, money. It seemed like there was no end to money at one point, as far as the local economies, the 4th Avenue and the Montana Club. Oh, yeah.
I could tell you about the Montana Club in the 50s.
I saw Scoot Jackson in the Montana.
Someone from Fairbanks should answer that question. Fairbanks said, yeah, I kind of knew what was coming, and of course Anchorage handled everything fine. Fairbanks had it tough. They really had it tough, and there's some good books written on that.
Yeah. It was wild.
Yeah. I've got to go. When Irene asked me to serve on or be on this thing, she had asked for stories. People like stories. I've got a great one on Charlie Edwardson. We're in Bellevue. That's where Alyeska set up their office because Ed Patton liked to sail. This is a fact. And so he wouldn't put the office in Anchorage or in Alaska. So it's set up in Bellevue. And nice guy, though, very nice guy. And wife liked to sail, too. Couldn't sail up here. Well, Harry Jameson and I put this study together, the EIS study. And in so doing, we put a panel together. Vic Fisher was on it. Kay Fanning was on it. We went down to Bellevue because they were we were trying to find out if we were doing the right thing. Basically, that's why I was hired, I think. So the oil guys could say, here, are we way off track, or are we doing things right? So we got Vic, we got Kay Fanning, and Charlie Edwardson. This is in Bellevue. So we
That's a combination.
Always marvelous, because it was so classic of Charlie. And I'm not making fun of Charlie, man. He played a role in this native claims thing, as Mike mentioned. So we went around and told them what we were doing, and I'm sure Vic had an opinion and Kay Fanning had an opinion, and of course, at the end, Charlie was right behind me, I remember. He stood up, and Ed Patton was at the end of the long table. God, I don't think he swore, did he? He said, this is our land. It's not only the states not have title, the federal government doesn't. It's our land. And he let in with Ed Patton. And I watched Ed. Ed was a cool engineer, nice guy. And he let him have it, the whole bit. So afterwards, we broke up, and Ed went back to his office, and I remember going down the hallway and saying, Ed, a lot of people in Alaska feel that way. This is serious. I think I said something like that. I advised him, you see. But that's a story I had to tell on Charlie Edwardson. Great story.